Good evening, people. Welcome along. 33 years in 31 days, day 27. Only a few more days to go. Looking at 2016. That's only just a little way away. Not so long gone, really, 2016. But good evening. Welcome along. Nice for people. That camera looks a bit fuzzy. Just bear with me. That looks better. Got a dirty, smudgy fingerprint or something on there, hadn't it? It was awful. It's my wife's laptop or my wife's Mac, but my son has had it for some schoolwork today, so I think that's perhaps what that was. But Andrea, good evening. Welcome along. Watching on Facebook. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, Twitter at the same time. See Willow's evening. Good evening. Welcome along. Good to have you here. 2016. If you watched yesterday, you will know that Periscope had been launched in 2015. I got very enthusiastic and excited about live video, despite the fact that it had been used in the police years before. Kerry Blakeman had been doing it years before with this Bambuza platform. Still haven't looked to see if that still exists. I'm sure it won't. But as I mentioned yesterday, I started to notice that people were using the live stream platforms to live stream while they were driving. And I'd said that I started to call people out. The first person broadcast about 30 minutes later, and I joined the broadcast. He was sat outside a coffee shop and said he was in Florida. He said he'd just been called out by a cop in the United Kingdom for live streaming from his mobile phone whilst driving. And I said, you know what? He's absolutely right. Never even crossed my mind. Shouldn't have been doing it. The concept that I was developing and hadn't really sort of thought of at that point was suddenly a success. But Don't Stream and Drive, that it came to be, was a success at that point because we'd converted the attitude and changed the attitude of one person. And it's never been a case, Don't Stream and Drive has never been a case of let's convince the world just to stop now. Chipping away at it all the time. Like all the road safety stuff that we do, we put messages out there and we chip away at it all the time. Over 50 years now, over 50 years we've been campaigning about drink drive. It's still a problem. Nowhere near as big as it used to be, but still a problem. Because we're chipping away at it all the time. These things don't happen overnight. They take decades. So anyway, Mags, good evening. I'm fine, thank you. Welcome along. Peter as well, good evening. So as I started to look at more and more of this video content that was coming online and sharing it with people and saying, look at this idiot, all that kind of stuff, I suddenly thought, there's a campaign possibility here if we try and consolidate it all into one big awareness day. That could work, might be interesting. Wonder whether we should do that. The date was set, I think it was April in 2016, the first one. I decided I was going to run the campaign, I was going to push it. And I'd say now the only reason that Don't Stream and Drive 2016 was a success, and the subsequent years were equally, if not more successful, was because of you lot. All the people that follow me and support me and put up with me, pushing messages out all the time about it, and supporting that, retweeting it, making your own content and using the hashtag and getting behind it. Me on my own, it's just a little voice going like that people can ignore, but lots and lots of people making it worthwhile, making it work. Yes, it's mine. Yes, I organized it. Yes, I pulled it together. But could I have done it without the people that follow me on social media and many, many other people? No, not in a million years. Anyway, Don't Stream and Drive Day was decided. It was going to be in April. And I had what we called a thunderclap. And the thunderclap was something that has since, it was a victim of its own success in the fact that Twitter got very twitchy about fake news and all that kind of stuff. But Thunderclap allowed you to sign up to something, which meant that even if you got completely distracted on Don't Stream and Drive Day and forgot to tweet because something really serious was happening, or you were just really busy with work, or whatever that happens to be. I was like this the other night, yawning, wasn't I? I'm going to have to start doing broadcasts at 7 o'clock, I think. Go to bed more. Anyway, you signed up to it, and if you were completely distracted and didn't manage to tweet anything during the day, that would automatically send a tweet on your behalf at a certain time on that day with the hashtag saying, I'm supporting Don't Stream and Drive Day and all the rest of it, whatever that happened to be. And we'd get thousands of people signing up to it. Fantastic piece of equipment, because all the tweets went at the same time. So you got a huge bang, a thunderclap on social media at that point. And if the hashtag was going to trend at any point during the day, it was going to trend then, because of suddenly, whoa, all these tweets have just gone out saying Don't Stream and Drive. So I ran towards Don't Stream and Drive, got closer and closer and closer. And then about 2 weeks before, I get called in to see professional standards. Come in, Neil, sit down, close the door. We've heard all this before, haven't we? Close the door. You think, oh, what? Went in, sat down. In charge of professional standards at that time, who is now an assistant chief constable with Greater Manchester, was Nick Bailey. And I didn't agree over the following years. I didn't agree with everything that he decided. But overall, he was very fair and he was very kind. He was supportive. And I think he put his neck on the line a few times just to sort of allow me to be, for which I'll always be grateful. However, he called me in. This Don't Stream and Drive thing that you're doing, seems to be getting a little bit popular. Yeah, it sort of took me by surprise how big the take-up's been. Corporate comms was scared to death. Didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't like it. Didn't like that I was an individual officer running a campaign, albeit I was still anonymous. Well, no, I wasn't anonymous at this point now, was I? But albeit, it was, they weren't being asked to do anything. They were worried about it. They didn't like the idea of individual officers running campaigns. They thought if I did it, there'd be a whole string of cops lining up outside the office saying, I want to run a campaign on litter, and I want to run a campaign on dog poop and whatever. I didn't see that, because I think it takes a certain amount of guts and gumption and innovation to be able to, and courage to be able to do this sort of stuff online and socially, and especially in the police at that time. So I didn't see it, but they were worried. I thought he was going to stop me, but he didn't. What he said was, it's too close now to pull the plug, which made me think that had it been a month or more away, they might have said, stop, pull the plug, it's not happening. We said it's too close to pull the plug. So run it, but don't run another campaign like this without first speaking to me. Okay. Don't Stream and Drive Day went ahead. It was a complete and utter success. One of the things that was really good about using social and being on social for Don't Stream and Drive was that, and I'll be forever grateful to them, there's a crowd on Twitter called the Ombles, OMBLES. OMB is 1 minute brief. So it's like Wombles, but without the W. And it's 1 minute brief. And every day, more or less, I think, they give a 1 minute brief to creative types to say, here's the brief for today, do something with this. And I made contact with them and said, I need a logo for Don't Stream and Drive. I need something that I can use for Don't Stream and Drive that encapsulates live video and people using their mobile phones whilst they're driving, and I need something that I can use as a logo. Can you help? Oh yeah. Got loads and loads and loads of suggestions from people on the day. This was before Don't Stream and Drive Day itself. And we ended up using this one, which I'm sure many of you seen. Matthew Wyatt, just at the bottom there, is the guy who was responsible for this one. And it was obviously a play on the YouTube logo. But it's also a play, if you remember, on the things that used to be written on the back of ice cream vans and things like that. Say, you know, watch that child and you didn't see that child and all the rest of it. They think you didn't see that child. You didn't see the child because you were far too busy focusing on your phone whilst you were driving. And so that was the logo that I chose. That logo has been there ever since. We had to provide a little sort of prize stroke thank you. I was very grateful to Mike Pannett, who donated some of his books for me. So we sent some books to him, and I think he got a t-shirt or one of the hoodies with the logo that we'd had made up as well, which a few people have had since over the years, and some of the proceeds of those went to charity and stuff like that. So that was the logo that I chose. Don't Stream and Drive Day went ahead. It was a massive success. It took my breath away how well it did, and really amazing sort of amount of help from the police family and all my friends on social media and all you people that just made it what it is, and that emboldened me to think we need to do another one. Without going into it, it has run every single year since, with the exception of 2020. 2020 was all lined up, but then I cancelled it because of COVID. And I said, you know what? People have got far more important things to be worrying about right now than a campaign online about using your phone whilst driving. People are still going to be doing it, but let's focus on staying safe and all that kind of stuff. So I pulled the plug. But 2017, 2018, and 2019, it ran. Every single year, I had to go to professional standards and say, I'm all set up, I'm all ready to go, can I do it? Every single year, yes, you can. Corporate comms, on the other hand, hated it. And I kicked up a bit of a stink many years later. We'll come to that one in 2019, I think that was, but we'll come to that one on the 30th. There's a fly there, that's unusual. So it was a runaway success, and this was a surprising thing that happened now, because if you remember the other day, I was talking about the fact that I had been to London and gone to a conference and not spoken at a conference, but went to a conference on behalf of the Deputy Chief Constable about digital things. That was fascinating. But I'd also gone to the UK Smile conference in 2014, and you think, police social media, it's on the rise, it's all changing, and I was starting to get involved in things that I'd never envisaged in my career. I'd never travelled anywhere for the police unless I was in a police car going to pick up a prisoner. That was the only time I ever did any travelling. I did fly to Heathrow to pick a prisoner once. That was quite interesting. See, there's another story that I could have mentioned that I'd forgotten. But that's donkey's years back now. So things started to change. And the next thing that changes is that suddenly you find that you've got lots of support on social media, but suddenly the media are starting to take interest and they want to know what it's about, what you're talking about. And prior to Don't Stream and Drive Day, and on Don't Stream and Drive Day, and post to Don't Stream and Drive Day, I was fielding lots of calls and emails from different people in the media saying, can we speak? Can you get in touch? Can we talk about Don't Stream and Drive? And lo and behold, one Sunday morning, very early, I got up and drove to Media City at Salford Quays and presented myself to BBC Radio 5 Live studios. There I am, photograph, I think, courtesy of Paul Cording, who said that there was there's some sort of webcam in the studio while the program is on air, and so he managed to catch a shot of me from the webcam. But there I am now. Obviously, I've been on national radio already because I was on Radio 4, but that was a pre-record, and they used somebody else for my voice. Now I'm on a webcam in a radio studio where people can, if they know where to look, see my face. I'm also talking about myself. John, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the one of the founders of Blabbing for Britain is in the room. Top bloke, Mr. Upton, John Upton. Welcome, John. But there we go. I'm on Radio 5 Live, but this is live. I sat outside on these comfy chairs and said, would you like a coffee or anything? I thought, no, I don't want a coffee because I'll need to go to the loo or something the minute I sit down. And I thought, no, just don't do anything. Nervous doesn't come anywhere near it. Once you're actually in there, much like anything else, once you're in there and you start talking, nerves go out the window because you focus on what you're talking about, what you know, and where my skill level was. But I spoke on Sunday morning on some sort of magazine program on Radio 5 Live. I was on air for about 15 minutes, something like that. Fascinating experience, really lovely people, had a great time, and then came away. But it was all about promoting Don't Steam and Drive and building up some of that stuff. And so it continued, and it astonished me how many people were getting behind it and all sorts of things. And then I fielded another phone call and another set of emails that led to a lot of work and a lot of inquiries and a lot of sharing information. And then eventually it all came together. And this little sort of unknown sergeant from one of the smallest forces in the country, whose force were supporting me, but not openly saying, this is one of our sergeants, yippee, well done to him. And a corporate comms team were going, we just basically denying my existence. This little sergeant from Cheshire ended up here. And I'll make that a bit bigger so you can see it and less of me. I don't know whether you can read that, but there he is in his nice uniform with a posh haircut, and I'm on Good Morning Britain with Susanna Reid and Piers Morgan. Is it Morgan? I could be getting his name wrong now. But they invited me down. I went with the permission of work. The day before the event, I had to have a telephone, while I was in London, I had to have a telephone call with our roads policing inspector to make sure I was on message, which was a bit weird because I thought, you don't know anything about my campaign and what I'm about, and that's what I'm talking about. But it made them feel better that they'd said, please hook in with, and da-da-da. Corporate comms had nothing to do with it. I didn't get any coaching or guidance or advice on what to do whilst I was on national live television. But I was told by professional standards that yes, I could go. GMTV, or Good Morning Britain, took me on the train down there. They got me a taxi to the hotel. They put me up in the hotel overnight. I met with Veep again, because if I go to London, I'm on my own. I meet with Veep if I can. So I met with Veep for a short while, back to the hotel. And then at some unearthly hour in the morning, it was about 4:30 or something like that, there was a taxi picking me up to take me to the studios. So I got myself up and I got my uniform on and I got myself ready and I went downstairs to the front of reception, and the taxi arrived and he drove me about 300 yards down the road and turned into the studios and dropped me off. I said, I could have walked that. He said, oh no, they like you to drive. They like to have everybody dropped off to make sure you get here without any problems and that. Okay. So makeup, and met all the makeup ladies while they all sort of They said, we're not putting much on you, but it's just to take the shine off your face and all this of it. And there were a whole load of people there at the time dressed up as stormtroopers who were doing some weird stormtrooper dance thing as well that was on the program. And then the lady that I'd been talking to via email and on the phone met me, introduced herself. We had a conversation about what to expect. And then suddenly it's like, right, come on, in you come. And you walk into a studio, which looks nothing like what you see on the TV. Sat down on a stool, and there is Piers and Susanna, who start talking to me about Don't Stream and Drive. And they've got autocue going on behind me, and they're reading stuff, and I settled into it. I was nervous to start off with before I got there, but once I was sat in the chair and they were talking, can't worry about who he is or who she is. Just get on with it. All went okay. Finished. They moved on to something else. The producers and stuff got a grip of me and said, "Come on, you can come out now." So they took me out and said, "We're going to bring you back on later." Because they'd got a young lad that they'd caught streaming and driving, and they brought him in as well and sat him next to me on the second set. And he was a bit of a I can't use the words on here. It's a family show. But they'd caught him streaming and driving, and then they put him on the simulator at TRL, which I had previously been on for a Radio 4 documentary. So, I mean, even there's something else that I've only just remembered, that I went down to TRL and drove in the car, and they did a whole item on Don't Stream and Drive. So the whole thing was just growing massively, and I was thoroughly enjoying this ability to sort of getting people's attention and raising the profile, not of me, but of the campaign and the danger of it, and saying, this is a problem. I'm here, small voice, with lots of people behind me on social media going, this is dangerous. But fabulous. Really enjoyed it. Second time, they said to me, "What? The gallery, which is where they do all the sort of change screens and move things around, said it went really well, but they wanted to do a bit about this and all the rest of it." And we talked, and I said, well, there is a thing that I've said in the past, which is about the fact that if you're driving at 40 miles an hour and you look away at your phone and regain focus on the road ahead of you, it's going to take this long. And if it takes that long, you've traveled the length of a football field blindfolded, and went, oh, that's brilliant. We love that. Can you get that in? Make sure you get that in. And so in the second bit, we got that in. And that was that. Second time, went up, did all the stuff. And then there was a break. They allowed me to leave. I said thank you to Piers and Susanna. Piers was a little bit challenging in the first interview. Second interview, he focused on the idiot. The first one, he was a bit more challenging with me, but nothing that put me massively under pressure and left me like going, oh, I don't know what to say now. But really fascinating experience, and amazing when you think, you know, there I am on live TV. And Cheshire Police were like that about it. And one of the things that I learned through this process and everything was the fact that they just didn't, there was certain aspects of what I was doing that they just were completely uncomfortable with. And yet this was a runaway success. And one of the things that they're very keen on in Force is celebrating excellence. They want to celebrate excellence. And if somebody's done a really good job with something, whether it's a local community group or whatever it happens to be, they're all over it in the force. Look at this, PCSO so-and-so's done this, isn't it amazing? And they've donated, they've gone around and collected all this stuff and donated it to food banks, and fantastic. And these officers have done a great campaign, and they've locked up 15 people for burglary, and burglaries reduced by yay. And then Sergeant Jewson Smith has run a road safety campaign all by himself online that's reached nearly 20 million people. No celebrating of excellence there. It was always a very difficult concept for me to deal with, but it also just was a continuation of everything that I'd faced throughout the years, which was at home, everybody was tight-lipped and didn't say anything about me. Around the country, senior officers were saying, fantastic job, that's brilliant, well done, what an amazing thing that you're doing. So I took my credit where I could find it and forgot all about local. But I sometimes equated it to being a bit like a child who is immensely successful at sport and really, really good at it, whatever that sport happens to be, it's football or gymnastics or swimming or something, ice skating, they're brilliant at it. And everybody's saying, you're fantastic, he's brilliant, he's great, well done. But it's never quite complete until your parents say, well done, I'm proud of you. And if you put that in a work context and say, well, then Cheshire Constabulary was like my work parents, if you like, and they never said anything. So it was never quite as good an experience as it could have been, because there was always this undercurrent of unhappiness about it. Anyway, there we go. Don't Stream and Drive, doing really well. Radio 5 Live, great, Good Morning Britain, all the rest of it. So I'm going on national media and I'm doing all kinds of things. And then I get a message from former Assistant Chief Constable with Cheshire by the name of Ruth Purdy, who is now, or was then, the General Secretary of TISPOL, European Traffic Police Network. She gets in touch with me. Says, Neil, our annual conference is in December, and I'm loving the stuff that you're doing with Don't Stream and Drive. Will you come and present at our conference? How do I do that now? There. Answer, too bloody right I will. And so there I am, December 2016, the TISPOL annual conference at Manchester Airport, and I presented to them about Don't Stream and Drive and the campaign and the dangers of live streaming whilst driving. Very, very well received, and a massive European policing audience with uniforms from all over Europe. Just incredible. Poland, Lithuania, Germany, Italy, Spain, France, the whole shooting match, loads of countries there. So it really opened up Don't Stream and Drive to Europe, and I will be eternally grateful for Ruth for inviting me to that, because that opened up even more possibilities, and even more things happened as a result of that just led me into this career of that I think sometimes drove my inspector at work a little bit doolally, because it was like, I've got this thing and I need to know if I can go, but my inspectors, bar none, were superb, absolutely superb. It was always the top end that was cautious, and the corporate comms team that just have nothing to do with me. So that was that. I presented to TISPOL. That was a great experience, and we'll talk more about what that led into in 2017 tomorrow. But for now, I think that is it. So 2016 was a busy year with lots going on and lots of new things for me. I'd also say, just before I go, that the Don't Stream and Drive Day in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 were all fully supported by John Upton, who I mentioned before he was in the room, and the Blabbing for Britain team. They run a weekly broadcast just talking about anything topical that's in the news or that they're interested in. And I used to drop in on that and talk with them a lot and built up a relationship with them. And then John and Stephen offered to help on Don't Stream and Drive Day by hosting some live broadcasts. And I couldn't have done it without him, because Stephen was like a facilitator, and John kept the conversation going if Stephen and I dried up. And it just allowed me to put my point across, but without talking like this, just me in front of a camera, 3 people on the screen, with Stephen saying, "So Neil, what is Don't Stream and Drive?" And he ran the interview. And so fascinating, brilliant. And their support really, over those 4 years, really helped to push the Don't Stream and Drive Day themselves right out there with people. And I've always been very grateful to them for that. So that's about that. I'll just have a look at some of the questions. Ruth's in, Jenny's here. Brave in spirit, should have given him a ticket on live TV. Well, yeah, I'd got enough on my plate with dancing stormtroopers all around me and stuff, but yeah, I can see your point. There's also an awful lot of people in force very, very jealous that I got within this sort of distance of Susanna Reid, who was absolutely lovely. She was absolutely lovely. Why were they so reticent? I just don't think, Ruth, I don't think they liked what I was doing, and they thought by supporting me, they would open the floodgates to all sorts of other people within the force wanting to do things. And so they just shut down and denied my existence. It was always an odd thing because, and we'll talk about one in 2019 where we created a map, but we'll talk about that in 2019. But it was very much a case of an odd balance in that I've gone to professional standards and they've said, yes, run your campaign. Don't worry about it. Go ahead, Neil. Good luck, blah, blah, blah. Simon Byrne, who was the chief constable at the time, would walk down the corridor and go past me and say, "Hello, Neil, how's your campaign going?" He knew about it. He wanted to know how I was going with it and all the rest of it. But as far as the organisation public facing was concerned, which is where corporate comms come in, nothing was ever said. Nothing was ever said. No support was ever given. And eventually reached a point where corporate comms were only really interested and wanted to know if I was being interviewed on radio or TV or was making a statement to a newspaper or something about it, just in case they got calls, so that they knew in advance that I'd been on radio or whatever. But other than that, they showed no interest at all. Did they ever try to block you doing talks, etc.? They never. The force as a whole, what individuals might have been saying behind closed doors that I was not privy to, I have no idea. But whenever I went to my inspectors and said, I've got a presentation I've been asked to deliver at this location, can I go? It was always a case of, is it private work and are you getting paid? No, I'm not. Therefore, yes, you can, and you can go on force time. Go, just do it. There were other times where I said, I'll go on force time, but I'll pay for my own travel. I met them halfway doing stuff. There were other times where they said, no, just go and we'll pay the expenses as well. You know, it's fine. It's a policing message. So it was a bit here and there. But why did comms ignore me? Have we worked with them previously? I have absolutely no idea. The management changed, that's for certain. They had a temporary person in on a contract for a while who I don't particularly think had any time for me or liked what I was doing. And then the replacement that came in had her own set agenda about how things were going to be. And I think probably took advice from the people there that had already decided what they thought about me and took that on board. And so nothing ever happened. Annoying, frustrating, made me very angry and bitter at times. And I can talk about it, and it might sound like I'm still angry and bitter. I'm not. I've grown past that. There's a piece of advice that I took from Amanda Coleman. Amanda Coleman is the former head of corporate comms at Greater Manchester, and has always been very good to me. And I sent her a message and I said, I don't know where I'm going wrong, and I don't know what's the matter. I said, but I was ready to go online and slate the organisation for the way they were treating me. And she said, take the high road. You're doing a good thing. You're doing nothing wrong. Take the high road and stay up there. They will have to come to you eventually, and if they don't, just leave them down there. He said, but don't take the high road and don't ever come down. And it was one of the best pieces of advice that I was ever given. I went up and I took the high road, and I've never come down off it. And if they want to be petty and small-minded about stuff, well, you go and be petty and small-minded about stuff, because I'm up here and I don't really care. And you can come up and join me if you like, but I'm not coming down to you. And that was probably the best piece of advice on social that I ever had. And I'm very pleased, actually, that as I go into retirement, I am going to be working a little bit more closely with Ruth Purdy and Amanda Coleman again, which is brilliant, because I have got so much to learn from those two people. And so that's really good news for me. But there we go. That is all for today. Quite a long one again, but as we start talking about Don't Stream and Drive and social media and stuff, I've always got lots to say, as you guys will know. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you for dropping in. Tomorrow is day 28, looking at 2017. And quite a lot happens in 2017. It's remarkable when I look back on it. So I look forward to talking to you tomorrow about 2017. Until then, I wish you a very good evening. Hope you are safe. Take care. And I will be with you tomorrow at 8 p.m. again. And we'll look at 2017. Until then, good night, folks. Bye-bye.